Hello and welcome to the virtual tour of the Front Street Animal Shelter. Today you'll learn all about what a shelter does, meet some of our animals, and find out how you can help. First, I have a question for you. What do you think a shelter does? Well, by the end of this tour, you'll know all about it. But I'm guessing, at least for now, you know that shelters take care of animals. So, how about we go meet some of our dogs? So our first stop is one of our adoptable dog buildings. Now, when an animal gets adopted, all that means is that they're going to a new home and to a new family. Now, we actually don't have very many animals at the shelter right now. Because of coronavirus, we weren't actually able to do adoptions, meaning that we would get very full very fast. So we needed to evacuate dogs into foster homes. So what's a foster home? A foster home is simply a temporary home for a dog or a cat, or even a litter of kittens or puppies. Sometimes even guinea pigs and bunnies. Do you have pets at home? I bet you do. Did any of you adopt your pet from an animal shelter? When someone wants to adopt a pet from a shelter, they don't just look in a kennel and say, I want that dog. We want to make sure that that dog or cat is going to be a great fit for that family, and that that family is going to be a great fit for that dog. So these are our meet and greet yards, and when we're open for adoption, people have the opportunity to spend a good amount of time with the animal they're interested in adopting to make sure that it's loved. Welcome to the backstage of our shelter. This is where we do a lot of the behind the scenes work and also keep a lot of our special vehicles. This is our mobile adoption van. So in this van, we're able to take dogs and cats out into the community to find new homes. A lot of people might not necessarily think to come to a shelter, or they might think it's going to be sad because of all the dogs and the cats in the cages. So this allows us to take animals out to them so that it gives them a great chance to find a new home. So these trucks are driven by our animal control officers. Do you know what an animal control officer does for their job? When a lot of people think of animal control officers, they imagine those cartoons where there's mean people running around with nets trying to catch dogs. But that really couldn't be further from the truth. Our animal control officers are huge animal lovers, and they spend their time making sure that our community is a safe place for both people and animals. For example, they make sure that people are walking their dogs on leashes so their dogs can't get away and run into the road. Or they make sure that animals aren't being left in hot cars in the summer. Welcome to our stray dog building. So most of the animals that come into our shelter are lost dogs and cats, and that means they have a family somewhere, and we really want them to get back to their original family. Unfortunately, not a lot of dogs and cats who come to shelters end up being found by their owner. Soon we're going to talk about what you can do to make sure that if your pet ever goes missing, you can get them home. But at a shelter, the animals who would normally be in these kennels would wait for at least a few days to give their owners time to find them, and if they didn't, we'd then place them up for adoption to find a new family. So most of the animals we take in at our shelter are dogs and cats, but every once in a while, we get a cute little surprise. So here at the shelter, we don't just get to play with cute animals all day. There's a ton of work to do. For example, we usually have to do a couple hundred dishes in just one day for all the animals that eat twice a day. We also have huge piles of laundry so that all of the pets can have clean beds and blankets. Luckily, we don't have to do this alone. We have a team of dedicated volunteers who spends their free time and their weekends coming to the shelter and doing chores, and also interacting with the dogs and cats, taking them for walks, giving them exercise so they don't get bored while they're here at the shelter. Now let me ask you, how many animals do you think come to our shelter in a whole year? 10? 100? A million? Well, luckily it isn't a million, but it is 10,000. And that is a lot of animals to care for. Now, anytime an animal comes in, they're gonna start their journey at this building. This is our reception center. So this is our reception center, and there's no animals in here right now, but if there were, they would be placed into these temporary kennels where they would stay for about 20 minutes until one of our shelter workers took them to the next part of their journey, which we're gonna see next. Welcome to our dog processing room. Now, if you look around, you're probably thinking, that looks a lot like a doctor's office. And that's because every animal that comes into our shelter gets a little checkup. We check their weight to make sure they're a good weight. We'll put medication on them in case they have fleas, and we give them shots. Everybody likes shots, right? Another thing that we do is take every animal's picture with this web camera. Their picture goes on our website, so if someone like you were to lose your pet, you could look on our website for your lost pet from home. Another really important thing that we do in this room is use this magic wand thing. Now, I'll be really impressed if any of you know what this is for. Have any guesses? Some people think it's a magnifying glass. Some people think it's a collar that goes around a dog or a cat, but it's actually a microchip scanner. What is a microchip? Glad you asked. This is a microchip. Now, it's very small, as you can see. It's about the size of a grain of rice, and it actually goes underneath the skin between the shoulder blades of a cat, dog, or other pet, and it's there forever. And what we do is we take our magic wand, we wave it over, and that'll give us a code that we can then put in our computer and get your address and phone number. So it's a very good way to get your pet home if they ever go missing. Another really important thing for your pet to be wearing at all times is this, a collar with an ID tag that has your phone number and your address. Because your neighbor probably doesn't have one of our magical microchip scanners, so they're gonna need your address and phone number from this. So you've seen around the shelter, so let me ask you, how old do you think this shelter is? Believe it or not, we've been around for over 100 years. Now this is the newest building at our shelter, and it's the medical building where the animal doctors work. What are the animal doctors called? Veterinarians. Unfortunately, a lot of the animals who come into our shelter are sick or injured. So our veterinarians work every day to help animals who have been hit by cars or who have skin conditions or need a cast on their leg, all sorts of amazing work that they do in there. One example is Max. Max was a little puppy who came to us very small, and he was very cold. He was covered in fleas, which are little gross blood-sucking insects, and we weren't sure if he was going to make it. He was very underweight. He wasn't doing well, but our veterinary team and our employees worked really hard to make sure that Max got better, and now he's doing amazing and has been adopted by one of the workers at our shelter. Now, for all you cat lovers out there, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you. This is our cattery. This is where people can meet and adopt cats. There's some really cool rooms in here. And it's a really quiet and clean environment. Now, we have a lot of adult cats, but we also take in over 3,500 kittens every year. Now, most of those kittens are too young to go up for adoption right away. So we send most of our kittens into temporary homes. What are those called again? That's right, foster homes. Some of them are so young that they have to be fed with a bottle. Most of the time, if you see kittens, the best thing to do is to leave them where you find them. In all likelihood, they have a mother who is just out getting food, and the kittens have their best chance of survival with their mom and her milk. Our last stop is our front office, and this is where the people work. Our staff works hard to save the animals, along with our volunteers and along with our community. It takes a lot to care for the animals, so if you or your family would like to make a donation to keep our shelter going and save lives, visit helpfrontstreet.com to donate. We hope you enjoyed the virtual tour, and thanks so much for coming along.